Thank you for joining us for National Consumer Protection Week. During this session, the panelists will discuss a variety of scams, romance scams, sweepstakes scams, identity theft, how to avoid those scams, and what to do if you fall victim to one. I'm Marion Quirk, the Director of the Consumer Protection Unit here at the Delaware Department of Justice. Today, we have three speakers. The first is Alan Rachko. He's our Chief Special Investigator in the Delaware Department of Justice Consumer Protection Unit. Chief Investigator Rachko investigates violations of Delaware's Consumer Protection Act. He oversees our Identity Theft Passport program, and he's a member of our outreach committee. And that throughout the state, Alan is always conducting presentations to different communities and organizations. So thank you, Alan, for being here. Next, we have Ben Lindemann. Ben is a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the resident office of Wilmington, Delaware. Agent Lindemann works on the white collar squad, and he's investigating financial crimes, healthcare fraud, fraud against the government, as well as civil rights violations. Also, I'd like to welcome Christopher Howland. Christopher is an assistant United States attorney with the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Delaware. He also serves as the Elder Justice Coordinator for the office. In that capacity, his practice focuses on crimes involving the exploitation of elders, including cyber scams, fraud against the government, and other white-collar crimes. So to kick it off first, Alan, why don't you take it away to talk about the various consumer scams we're seeing?
Sure. Thank you, Marion. Well, some of the scams we're seeing now, one is computer pop-up messages that you'll get on your screen. And it's going to tell you that your computer's been corrupted with either a virus or malware. And it'll have a number on there, a phone number they want you to call. You'll call that number. The person will represent themselves as a computer tech, usually Microsoft or some other firm. And they'll want you, they will want remote access to your computer. A lot of times they'll have you download an app called AnyDesk, and that'll allow them to get into your computer. And once they're there, there's a couple of things that'll happen. They're going to tell you that your bank accounts are corrupted and you need to contact bank security, and they give you a number to call. You think it's your bank. You'll call, you're talking to another person. That person says, your money's about to withdraw, it's going to be transferred to a foreign bank. You need to get it out now. You need to wire it to this account. And you think it's going to be in a safe account, yet it's the scammer's temporary account. Or they'll also, or could have you go out and purchase gift cards to fix the problem on a computer. And you'll go out and they'll be on the phone with you. You'll buy the gift cards and you'll immediately have to give them the numbers off of those cards. And we also have romance scams, which is very big. So please be careful when communicating with anyone off any of these sites, because too many people have given away thousands of dollars because they think they found a person of their dreams. There's several red flags here that you need to be aware of. Number one is they'll never FaceTime you. It'll always be calls or it'll be texts. And they'll give you a lot of reasons why they can't. They'll say poor reception or they're busy, but they'll be able to call you and text you, yet they can't FaceTime you. They'll tell you that they're working overseas, they're on an oil rig, or they're a doctor helping in an impoverished country. And then what they're going to also, once they get this relationship going, they're going to tell you that they can't get to their money because of where they are. So they're going to need you to send them some money. Starts out small and it continues and it builds up as you're in this relationship and you're starting to believe this person. Then they'll tell you they've inherited some money or they want to send you some money from their business because they can't get to it and they trust you and they want you to hold it. But while you're doing that, you have to send them money so they can get this to you. And it just continues. As long as you're giving them money, they're going to continue to talk to you. Yet it's really not the person that you think you're talking to, and they will never come and meet you. And we also have sweepstakes scams. And you must understand, you can't win a lottery or the sweepstakes unless you played it. Your name is not automatically picked from a computer base because you're searching the web or from a Facebook account. They'll string you along and they'll have you pay taxes and fees up front. And they'll give you, they'll send you letters They'll really think that they're going to come and they're going to get you money. As long as you're sending them money, they're going to say, oh, now you're making more. You're going to get more money than what you had in the past. Always second guess any type of communication you get that you did not initiate or you didn't expect. Check with a family member or a friend when in doubt, and search the web for any type of sweepstakes that you think you won or lottery that you think you won. I've interviewed seniors. I interview them on a weekly basis who lose money to these scams that I've mentioned. There was one couple that lost over $400,000 in a sweepstakes scam. And this is over a matter of 3 years because they kept giving money and they kept falling into this. There was a woman that I interviewed. She's given away over $200,000 in a romance scam. So you just have to be careful, and you have to pay attention to what you have when you're, especially when you're dealing online and never are able to meet any of these people. And also remember, no legitimate government agency, business, charity, or utility company will want you to pay in gift cards, and never wire money for these services or send checks to someone in another state for any type of payment. And never believe that you have to pay taxes and fees for any sweepstakes or lottery you receive before you get the winnings. Thanks, Marion.
Thank you, Alan. It certainly is an important point to mention to folks to second guess communication. You know, unsolicited phone calls, texts, emails, whatever it might be. You know, the scammers are trying to create this sense of urgency, as Alan indicated. And so to take a pause, check with family members, friends. You know, don't buy into the sense of urgency. And people make mistakes when they act quickly. So those are really terrific points. Thanks, Alan. The next topic is identity theft. Ben, take that away for us.
Thank you, Marion. So I'm going to talk about the topic of identity theft. So first, what is identity theft? Identity theft is when someone uses your information, either your social security number, your date of birth, your name, to commit fraud. Examples of this include somebody opening up a credit card in your name, somebody applying for a personal loan or a home loan in your name, or even somebody filing a tax return in your name seeking to get your refund. So how do you protect yourself from identity theft? Well, number one, old school, shred your documents with any personal financial information. People still do dig through the trash to obtain credit card numbers, bank account numbers, or your personal information, date of birth that may be on mailings. Also, be alert, as Alan said, to any impersonators or impersonation scams. Don't willingly give up your date of birth, your social security number, just because somebody asked for it over the internet or through email. Also, be very mindful of any emails you may receive from your bank or your financial institution asking you to do things such as update your profile, update your user information. These could be fake emails asking you, trying to get you to log into your bank so that then the criminals will have your login information. Always don't click through those email links. Instead, go to the actual bank website that you know and trust and use on a regular basis in order to log in and update any of the information the email may be asking for. Lastly, check your statements. Look through your credit card statements. Ask for your annual credit report. You can do this through annualcreditreport.com. You can check each of the 3 credit bureaus to determine if anybody has, for instance, applied for a loan, applied for a credit card, set up a new cable account in your name. And lastly, if you've become a victim of identity theft, there's a couple of things you can do. Number one, you can go to the website identitytheft.gov. Again, that's identitytheft.gov. It's a helpful website that will lead you through a series of questions in order to help determine if you were, one, the victim of a financial fraud, and then what you should do if you have been the victim of an identity theft scam. It can help you obtain a recovery plan for the identity theft. Lastly, you can report the information to IC3.gov. That stands for the Internet Crime Complaint Center. That's the FBI's website to report internet-based crimes to. So you can go to that website to report a internet-based crime. Thanks, Marion. That's the topic of identity theft.
Thanks, Ben. You really made an important point about, especially with bank information. I know myself, I get emails and texts from my bank, but that's not legitimate. So many people fall prey to those types of scammers kind of spoofing what looks legit, and then you give away, personal information, your money is gone, and it's very hard to get that back. So those are really helpful tips. Last up, we have Christopher. Christopher is going to speak with us about money mules and money laundering.
Hi, Marion. Thanks for inviting me to participate on this panel. Apologies that I'm having sort of technical difficulties. You would think after 2 years of being more or less virtual, I would have all the kinks worked out, but I do not. So I apologize for that. So I'm going to talk about money mules and money laundering, which is almost sort of a, Ben and Alan were talking about specific kinds of scams, and I'm going to be talking about sort of the stepping back, the bigger picture of it, because the way that these scams work is you are not the only person. If you're the victim of one of these scams, you are not the only person who is a victim of that scam. They only work by having multiple, it's almost like a spider web, having multiple people move money from one point to another. They have multiple people playing different roles. And the reason that they do that is to spread out the risk to any one individual member of the scheme or the scam, and to make it more difficult for law enforcement to track down, right? And one of the ways that we call them, criminal organizations, because they often use, in fact, I would say they always use multiple people to be able to exploit the victims. And one of the kinds of roles that people play is, or fulfill, is a money mule. And the phrase money mule comes from an earlier criminal activity, drug mules. And essentially, a drug mule is a person who moves drugs on behalf of a bigger organization. And a money mule is exactly the same thing. A money mule moves money from one account to another account, whether it be from identity theft, whether it be their own money or somebody else's money. But the point is to move the money around in as many different ways and into as many different bank accounts as possible. There are different kinds of money mules. So some money mules are knowing money mules, which means they participate knowing, right? They know that what they're doing is illegal. Oftentimes, however, what we learn is that people who are moving money don't know. They themselves are the victims of the organization, the criminal organization. So I've seen people who think that they're working from home. They're participating in a work from home thing where they keep a little bit, they get a paycheck or they get a little bit of the proceeds, but their role is to just move money around, right? You will see checks just get sent through the mail, and some of these people who are unknowing money mules just forward the check from point A to point B. And it can be from any of these different kinds of scams, right? It can be from gift card scams, identity fraud or identity theft scams, romance fraud scams. They completely run the gamut. And so that's another reason that these criminal organizations use these money mules, is because if you have someone who's in the middle, like a middleman, they don't actually know that they are participating in the illegal activity, right? They're just thinking that they're sending checks, or they're working from home, or they're participating on behalf of their online boyfriend. Then it's much more difficult to prove that they themselves are criminally culpable. So that's just one thing to be aware of, is the way that these networks, these money laundering networks, operate. And I think one of the things to keep in mind about these money laundering operations is, as I said at the beginning, they're never a solo operation, right? And there are several different roles at each point of the spider web that different people play. Almost always, what we have seen in our investigations is there's a group that is operating from a different country. We call them transnational criminal organizations. And so there's a group there, and that group there, they're literally sitting in a giant warehouse. There are phones set up. It's almost like a telemarketing operation that we've all seen here in the United States. But it's a telemarketing operation in Poland or in Liberia. And the people in that room, they're working the phones, right? Some of them are sitting at a computer and creating fake online accounts. That's sort of one piece of it. Another piece, some of those people who are in that room, they are the IT people, the information technology people. They set up the fake domains. They figure out which companies to target. Business email compromises is another scam, and one role that people play in that scam is to find companies to essentially victimize. But that's where the money mule person comes in, or the money mule role comes in. It's just another person in the overall scheme. And I think that's kind of my sort of point, was to give a little bit of the background and explain the different roles that people play in these schemes. And oftentimes, once the money is moved from one account to another, it goes right back overseas, right? Because the whole point of having the money spread out is, again, to make it difficult to trace. The phrase "follow the money." It makes it much more difficult to follow the money if you have 10 different people whose money has gone into 10 different accounts. But to spread it out as much as possible. And so in the same way that you should make sure that you're not a victim of romance fraud or identity theft or banking fraud. Make sure that if someone, your online boyfriend or someone out of the blue asks you to open an account, for example, or just accept mail, and then you don't need to look what's inside the mail. Just move the mail from you're going to get it, and then you move it out to the next person. All you have to do is write a name and an address on the envelope. That's still, if there's something in the back of your head that's sort of a red flag saying, hey, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right here. If you have that red flag or that little voice in the back of your head, chances are you should be a little bit careful with what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you, Christopher. And I think, a couple of points there. It's interesting that you say a lot of people don't realize that they're actually serving as a money mule. And, so to mention, if it seems fishy, smells weird, seems like, don't continue to fall in that activity. And I think the other thing you pointed out that I think is mind-boggling to people is that there's rooms of people scamming people, all over the world, and they do it because they make money. It's
Yeah, and one thing I will say, one point that I wanted to emphasize was just how sophisticated these operations are. And one of the things that we have seen is that people who fall victim to these, and it's been people in my own family, it can be a very embarrassing experience for them. They might not want to report it, but it's not embarrassing at all, because these people are sophisticated. This is what their job is. So we encourage everybody to report it, both through IC3, which Ben just mentioned. I believe Alan also mentioned a way to report these kinds of frauds, because if we don't know about them, we can't investigate them.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Christopher. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have the various links that have been mentioned here to report fraud, identity theft, and we're the folks that do the investigation to try to help people. And there's nobody that can't be scammed, right? Like, to your point, regardless of age, young kids, It happens. It happens through text, phone, email, you name it. And everybody could be subject to it. I just, as a real quick story, I have like young kids, and they even know like the tips to not be scammed because they hear me talking about it. So I'm starting them young. I'm starting young. Well, I really appreciate all of you participating. I think this has been a really great presentation. A thank you to all the presenters, and a special thanks to Ben and Christopher and the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office for joining us in this important week for National Consumer Protection Week. Thank you.